Hello and welcome to our first ever CeMAP study podcast that we're going to completely wing outside, because if you're listening to this when it's posted, it's July 2024.
It's August
2024 and it's been the hottest week of the year, and I could not think of anything worse than having to sit in a stuffy office to record stuff. So we've winged it. We've brought the microphone outside. Who knows what's going to happen? God knows what's going to happen with the acoustics.
There are definitely going to be ambient sounds.
The dogs might bark, we might get a delivery, but we're going to jump straight in and not thought about. So I'm Charlotte.
I'm Maria.
And every week we get together and try and help you guys get through your CeMAP exams without once just wishing that it was all over. So this week's episode is going to be focusing on the CeMAP 2 and 3 textbook, specifically to do with topic 6, which is all about the legal aspects of buying a house.
Ooh, fun.
It's, real fun. So I've got notes on my phone screen that I can't see because it's so bright outside.
Yeah.
And we'll do the first thing and then we'll do the rest of the things, Maria, if you wouldn't mind.
Cue intro music.
And we are good to go, and I am already sweating in places.
I'm sweating.
Okay, cool. So this topic is all to do with buying a house and selling a house, I guess, because one person sells it, one person buys it. That's usually how it goes.
Yep.
So I think the first thing for us to go through is to really understand how you buy a house. So step 1 is to look for one. And I know that sounds...
Okay, seems easy enough.
If you're anything like me, it's Rightmove. I've got no intention of moving house, but have I got Rightmove notifications switched on? Yes, absolutely I do. Turns out it's a thing. You're either a Rightmove or you're not.
I'm not. And I love a good bit of online shopping, but apparently maybe not houses. Although there have been times where I've sent you with teen houses, been like, it's got a 12-horse stables. This is definitely an option.
Yeah, exactly. So usually people start with Rightmove these days. You have estate agents. Some people can wander past estate agents, the old-fashioned way.
Oh, I do like checking an estate agent's window, mainly to bitch about how expensive the area is when it's a shithole.
But that's step 1. Once you find a property that you like, the next step is to go and view it.
Yep.
And then it's usually the estate agent that is selling the property that's going to show you around the property.
Yep.
And then if you like it, you put an offer in.
Yep.
The seller decides whether or not they like the offer. They'll either accept you or they'll tell you to get fucked.
Fair.
And then if it's an accept, happy days. That's when your mortgage application starts.
Okay, this is sounding very much like a place in the sun, one of those type situations.
It's exactly like that. Do you know where isn't a place in the sun and works completely different?
Where?
Scotland.
I feel like I remember this vaguely.
Yeah, so in Scotland, they've got it nailed down. They know what they're doing. There's none of this farting about with offers and accepting and rejecting and gazumping, which is something we'll come on to in a second. In Scotland, there is an asking price, and that is the price you pay when you buy the property.
Well, that seems reasonable.
When you've committed to it, you've committed to it. Honestly, it's genius. We're so far behind in England because there's so many things that can go wrong that don't go wrong in Scotland.
Because you only get to put one offer in?
You don't put an offer in. You agree to buy it for the asking price. That's
and
it.
Hope that no one else has gone above it.
They don't allow that in Scotland. You can't over offer. As far as I understand it, the first person that says that they want it for the price it's being asked for is how it works, and that's why something called gazumping and gazundering, they're not things. But gazundering, yeah, fun word. So that's how the steps work. They all have legal names for those steps, like offer and acceptance. But there's one that keeps coming up in people's CeMAP exams, and it's the consideration stage.
Okay.
What do you think that is?
The stage in which people consider things.
And that's what everybody thinks it is, but it's not. The consideration is the legal terminology for like a promise to pay. So if you were to buy my house, you would offer me the price, and I would say yes, and then you go away and you find the mortgage.
Right.
At that point, you're promising to pay me the money when you get the mortgage.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's things that can go wrong at that point.
Like you don't get a mortgage.
Yeah, one of many things. But that's the idea. The consideration is either the payment of money or the promise to pay. And if anyone can hear some sort of crinkling going on in the background, Maria's tiny angry dog Bandit has found the most noisy toy that he could possibly have found, and then has just gone under the table and is like, yeah, this is where I'm going to play with it. So
I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to try and reclaim it.
It might not come up on the microphone. We could be okay. So key takeaway from this week's episode, point number 1, is the consideration is either the payment of money or the promise to pay. Sound simple enough?
Sounds simple enough.
She wandered away from the
I'm
microphone.
sorry, I was
ladies and gentlemen.
relocating the noisiest toy in the universe.
The next thing that the textbook talks about is the role of the estate agent. Who they are, what they do. And a lot of people that come and do CeMAP courses... Bandit, leave it. Drop it. Good
Sorry,
boy.
guys. My dog is a dick.
The role of the estate agent, and what it's important to understand first off is the estate agent works for the seller, not for the buyer.
Okay.
So it's the estate agent that's going to show you around the property that you want to buy, and they're going to really sell it to you. They're going to tell you how great the owners are, how it's got such good zen, how the planets are in the right configuration when you want to buy the house, whatever it is that
Feng shui of the property.
Yeah, but ultimately, they get paid when that house sells, and they get their money from the seller, not from you as the buyer, so it's in their best interest.
To sell it.
Yeah, while they're going to pretend like you're their best friend, their loyalty or their legal responsibility, is a better way of putting it, is to the seller, not to the buyer.
So no shade to estate agents, they are salespersons.
Yeah, exactly. You do need to know how estate agent contracts can work. Honestly, that bit was way too boring for this podcast, which is a stretch, so I'm not going to go through those. Go look at the textbook or go get the e-learning platform because it's in there in a nice little handout. But what I would like to highlight is how much estate agents can charge.
Okay.
Between 1% and 3% of the property value is an industry standard.
Okay.
And that makes sense because if you've ever watched, what's that TV program we were obsessed with?
Selling Sunset.
Selling Sunsets, yeah. They don't get a salary, do they? They just make commission.
Just commission, but they are selling
ridiculously expensive.
redonkulous houses.
Exactly.
It would be a way less entertaining program if they were selling bed sits somewhere in fucking outer Manchester.
1-bed apartments in Littleborough. It'd be a completely different story.
They wouldn't fucking, no one would make a program about that.
Exactly. So estate agent fees, anywhere between 1% and 3% of the property value.
Yep.
The way that you set up your relationship with your estate agent can work in a bunch of different ways as well. So you can have it where it's just one estate agent that's responsible for selling it. You could have it where you get a couple of estate agents involved. There's loads of different variations of selling rights. That's the boring bit that you need to go and dig out the textbook because I'm not explaining that.
Yeah, you've got textbooks. Go for your life, lads.
Yeah, if you don't have a textbook, you should have had one when you booked your exam. So hopefully you've got one coming through. There are 2 key phrases that we need to know about for our exam when it comes to estate agents.
Yeah.
One is called ratification.
Yeah.
And the other one is called apparent authority.
Okay.
And they sound dead similar, and they do have similar aspects, but they come up in everybody's CeMAP 1, 2, and 3 exam. So if you're missing out on this bit, you're really missing out on some mega bonus
So these are
points.
definitions you must know.
Yeah. So if we start with apparent authority,
Yeah.
that's a legal phrase.
Yeah.
So it's not just related to estate agents. If you have a legal relationship of any kind, apparent authority is a thing. You can go to court and talk about it.
Okay.
I'm going to use the example of if I go and work abroad, because I've realised that I never want it to be another temperature ever. And Maria, I'm going to ask you to rent out my mum's property for me.
Okay.
And I'm going to say to you, there's no formal agreement in place because you're my best friend and I trust you. I'm going
Cool.
to say, the tenant that's in it at the minute, she's pretty decent. So, you know, keep her in it. But just look after the property, make sure I'm getting rent.
Yep.
Pretty broad.
Yep.
Let's say 6 months to a year down the line, I'm living it up in Malta and you're renting the property, and my current lovely tenant decides that she's just going to be a little bit of a shitbag and she's going to stop paying the rent and she's going to start trashing the house.
Sound.
You can't get hold of me because I'm living it up in Malta.
Excellent.
So you make the decision to go and evict that tenant and put a new tenant in.
Yep.
I kind of never gave you authorization to do that. It was never specifically
It was
discussed.
never discussed in the...
However, because I asked you to look after it and make sure the rent comes in, what I've done is I've given you apparent authority to have the ability to evict that tenant.
It's implied in the verbal agreement that we have that is part of my duties in taking care of the property for you.
Exactly.
Okay, that
what
makes sense.
Apparent authority is. And estate agents can do it, solicitors can do it. It can come up in loads of different types of circumstances.
Yeah.
Ratification is similar in a sense of if we used the exact same scenario with ratification, if I'd specifically said to you, I do not want you to evict this tenant,
Yeah.
but you went and did it because she wasn't paying rent,
Yeah.
at that point you've gone against what I've said.
Yeah.
But I'm going to agree with you after the fact because you're going to go, Charlotte, yeah, I've evicted her, but she trashed the house and she stopped paying her rent. And I'll go, oh, all right, fair enough, I get it. That's the difference. Ratification is you specifically going against my actions and me agreeing to it after the fact.
After the fact.
Yeah.
So you've ratified my actions in posterity.
There we go. ratified my actions. That's a good way of doing it. I didn't realise that was a phrase.
I'm assuming it is. If anyone disagrees with me,
Let us know in the comments.
Me and my 2 degrees will do it with you in the comments section.
So far, Maria is absolutely desperate for somebody to leave us or me a scathing review just so that she can go in on them, because I've told her that she can be the social media and marketing manager, and if that ever happens, she can just go to town, and she's almost desperate. I can see it.
It is not even a want at this point. It is a need.
Well, I don't plan on disappointing anybody. So if you're going to leave a bad review, you can face the wrath of Maria, and you'll probably deserve everything that's coming to you.
So excited.
Okay, energy performance certificates.
Oh,
Another super sexy topic. That's
excellent.
The next thing we'll talk about.
Although I will say they are very important.
Go on, Maria, you tell me what an energy performance certificate is.
Basically tells you how shit your property is at keeping hot or cold, and how much it's going to cost you to keep it in a livable temperature for yourself.
Correct. What do you imagine in your head? What can you see? Can you see that document that you see online?
Yeah.
I look on Rightmove, so I see it all the time.
The one with the bars.
Like the bars when you're buying a fridge.
It's basically the temperature. That's the same, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's the same thing. So any electrical appliances now have to have them, don't they, legally? To tell you how much it's going to cost you to run your fucking fridge, which, fun fact, expensive. They're shit because of what they do.
Yeah.
They're just shit. You're never going to get an A-rated fridge, or even I think a C-rated fridge. If anyone wants to disagree, let's go.
Yeah, let us know in the comments because we'll buy one. I'm really sorry for having my hands in my pocket. I just need some
so
sort of
warm.
breeze. I'm so hot.
I'm having a great time. Honestly, if you told me I'd be employed to sit in your garden in a bikini and do a podcast, I'd be delighted. I've got an iced coffee. I'm living my best life.
This is everything we ever wanted.
Exactly.
So energy performance certificates, yes, they are important. They're always there when you buy a fridge or a dryer or any electrical appliance.
And a house.
And houses is the important one that we need to know about. So the key thing, if you've got a notepad, if you're making notes, or if you got your exam ears on, what you need to know is the energy performance certificate has to be done or acquired. What's the word I'm looking for? 2 degrees, Maria?
What?
Good to know you were paying attention.
Acquired works.
Okay, acquired. Before the property is listed for sale.
Oh.
So if
It has to be listed with an EPC.
it's a legal requirement. If not, you can face court action, legal
No
action,
way.
fines, prison, all that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's ever happened. And I've definitely seen houses on Rightmove for sale with
Also,
no
yeah.
EPC. It says like pending EPC, but you can't do that. Before it's listed, you have to have the energy performance certificate. There's new legislation that's come in now to say you can't rent a property unless the EPC rating is above a C. Now, my mum's house
Yeah.
just had all the work done, like boiler, it's already had
everything.
insulation, everything, and I think it's still just scrapes a low grade C.
Well, I think these are our properties here do.
Yeah.
And I haven't had my heating on since I moved in.
Yeah, you moved in like May.
I
I
moved-
then
yeah.
moved in July.
And I've not
Oh,
had...
no. No,
no.
earlier
I
than
moved
that.
April,
June.
June.
Basically, Maria moved in, and I was like, I want a piece of this life. I'm going to come and be your next door neighbour. And that's what happened not that long ago. But since we've moved into these properties, neither of us have ever put the heating on because I thought it was because they were so energy efficient.
Yeah, but the EPC rating online was for the listing was shit, and I think it's because they've got the
Tin
Velux. They've got the Velux windows,
Oh.
which apparently immediately trash your energy rating, according to our local neighbourhood boyfriend,
Oh,
who
but-
we shall not name.
Oh, well done. To be clear, when we say neighbourhood boyfriend, we mean the maintenance man.
Yeah, we call our neighbourhood boyfriend because he does all the boyfriend
All
jobs,
the man jobs.
all the man
You need a
man
shelf
jobs
coming
around the
up,
house.
Call the neighbourhood boyfriend.
Basically, the jobs that you'd either have to pay someone to do, or you'd get your dad or significant other to do. Because whilst we are strong, independent, capable women that can use power tools, we just prefer
don't
not
want to.
I
Yeah.
just don't want to. I can't be bollocksed. If I'm going to put something up, I'm going to stick a nail in without checking if there is a stud or a wire or fucking whatever it is behind it. Hope I don't blow all of the fuses, and just roughly guess if it's straight or not.
That's fair.
Yeah, which is the way forward.
So, back to energy performance
Sorry.
certificates. You need to have one legally before you market a property for
Yeah.
sale. You can't have it after the fact. That's not the point. You need to have one beforehand. And it should be available. So, it should be on Rightmove if that's where you find any property. Or at
Yeah.
least the estate agent should have a copy of it.
Yeah.
That's how that one works. That's another thing boxed off. Okay, gazumping. Oh, what a great word. I've
is.
been calling it gazumpting for my whole entire life. And it was only until about one masterclass ago when somebody
Right.
said gazumping, and I was like, is it? Is it not gazumpting?
There's no
Convert to
T.
The
The T is
textbook. There's no
silent.
T. There's no T in the textbook. So this is where somebody comes and puts a higher offer on a property that you have agreed to buy.
Oh, so
So-
you get gazumped.
Real and that's why I put a T in it, because you've been gazumped. But it's gazump.
Gazumped.
So, real world example, my auntie and uncle,
Yep.
they loved a property that they'd found up for sale, but it had technically already sold. They were well down the line with selling it. They contacted the estate agent and they were like, look, this is our dream home, guys. We just want to buy it. And the estate agents were like, cool, it's already a done deal, so there's nothing that we can do for you. Not wanting to take no for an answer in a shocking turn of events.
Doesn't sound like them at all.
What they did is they drove to the house, they wrote me a very nice letter and said, hey, look, we are really interested in buying your property. Whatever you've been offered, we'll offer you more.
Fair.
Is it right?
It depends where your moral compass is, mate.
But can you do it? Yes, you can.
So you
Can
legally
do it?
are you legally
Yes, you
allowed
can.
to approach?
In this country, yeah, you can. The point at which you are legally tied into buying the property is when the contracts are exchanged, which is usually like 30 days before you get your keys.
Deposits are paid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all on that at that point.
Right.
So up until that, anyone is fair game. And
It's the wild fucking west out there, lads.
that's what gazumping is.
Right.
When somebody comes in and just shits on your house purchase parade, because the seller is always going to want to take more money.
Yeah.
I've got no idea how that plant pot has fallen over, but we'll come back to that in a second.
What plant pot?
The plant behind the car. Anyway, I've just noticed it. Let's
Oh,
bring it
okay,
back
sorry.
into gazumping. Gazundering is not in the CeMAP textbook, so I'm only going to talk about it for a second because somebody told me that it was definitely a thing, but I've not in fact fact checked my own facts. But gazundering can also happen apparently, but I can't remember what it is. I just know that it's a word that somebody told me that's not in the textbook. That was not helpful.
This is the least helpful section of any podcast we've ever done. I'm really sorry, guys. I don't know if it's the 4 iced lattes or the sun, but I think we might have a touch of the giddies here.
So gazumping is the one we need to know about.
Gazumping. Forget the other one.
Yeah, forget the other one.
I'm really sorry.
That's okay. You sort band it out. The next thing we're going to talk about is when you buy a property. So we've gone through, you've viewed it, you've liked it, you've put an offer in, nobody has come and gazumpted you. That's not happened. What you're going to do as a buyer is get a mortgage.
Yeah.
That is not a short process. That can take anywhere between like 4 and 20 weeks.
Good fucking God.
I think the industry standard is like 12 weeks. But things happen and they can take longer.
That's bullshit.
So within that 12-week period, you're going to find a lender that likes your house. You're going to find a solicitor that can work with that lender. And then the lender's going to do their checks. The solicitor's going to do their checks. That's what takes the bulk of time.
This is what you're paying them for, isn't it? Right.
And there's three really important steps that we need to know about from this topic. Option step, even, number 1,
Yep.
is when you are offered a mortgage product. So you've applied for a mortgage
Yep.
with NatWest Bank.
Cool.
And they've come back and they've said, yeah, we're happy to offer you this as long as you haven't lied through your fucking teeth, but we'll check that at a later date.
Okay.
You don't get a cooling off period with mortgages, like you do with literally everything else.
Oh,
You get something called a reflection period.
which is the same.
Kind of. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, here's our offer to you.
Yep.
You have 7 days to make a decision as to whether or not you want us to go
Go
ahead
ahead.
with this application.
Okay.
Think about it, but then as soon as you've decided you want it, that's it.
You don't, no backsies.
Yeah, no swapsies, whatever it's called.
Cool.
So it's a 7-day reflection period, whereas with any other type of financial services products, it's either a 14 or a 30-day cooling off period.
Yep.
But mortgages, it's a reflection period.
Okay.
That's significant thing number 1. Significant thing number 2 is the exchange of contracts.
Yep.
People always get confused about when are you tied into your mortgage arrangement, because very often solicitors will exchange contracts and complete on the same day.
Yep.
But the exchange of contracts and the stage of completion are 2 separate things.
Yep.
The exchange of contracts is when you are legally tied in, and it usually happens about 30 days before completion. And completion is when you get the keys.
That makes sense because once you've exchanged contracts, you've signed a contractual, legally binding obligation to complete this purchase.
Exactly. So you can't pull out after the
No
after
backsies.
the contract. I'm really sorry. After the exchange date, once you've exchanged contracts, you are legally bound to continue with the purchase of that property. Interestingly, once you've exchanged contracts, you are responsible for insuring the property that you don't yet live in. Because if that house burns down before you get the keys, you are still legally liable for the full mortgage amount.
So I'm assuming that there are insurance products out there for that.
Most lenders will say we want to see evidence of your insurance in place before we'll exchange.
That's fair.
Have I ever seen a lender actually ask for those documents? No, but do they put it in their requirements? Yes. So that's the exchange of contracts. You can't exit after that point. The next step is the completion stage. And this is the stage when you get the keys. This is the move-in date.
Cool.
A lot of solicitors will offer them on the same day because people have no patience. I know I was a house buyer once, a home purchaser, whatever you want to call it. I also had no patience, so I get it. But that's the other significant date. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about for this week's episode is auction properties.
Ooh!
So we got two types. We've got the homes under the hammer. You sit in a room with your paddle.
You're a paddle. Yeah.
And then you've got online auctions.
Okay.
So we got in person or we got online.
Yep.
The in-person one is just known as an auction purchase.
Yep.
And there's certain things that have to happen that you definitely need to know about for your exam. And when I say this, guys, you're going to get a lot of questions on auction properties.
Right.
So
Pay
turn
attention.
up the volume at this particular point. The first one, the homes under the hammer, the in-person auction.
Yep.
You go, they tell you about the property, and they've actually marketed the property together. So they've got a pack, and it's got like a bunch of stuff in that pack that basically tells you that it's mortgageable in essence.
Okay.
There's things that you need to know about that are in that pack. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, so maybe
Is it going to be like your EPC rating?
EPC rating would definitely be in there. Well done, Maria. That sounds like such a good exam question. So the EPC rating would be in there along with, I think, local authority searches.
So basically the stuff that if you were going to
searches.
view it in person and then do your own checks, you would be at the probably 2-week consideration point.
Exactly. And the reason that they do that is because when you get a successful bid on an auction property in person, you exchange contracts on the day.
No way.
You pay a 10% deposit, you exchange contracts on the day, and then you have 28 days to complete, which is not a lot of time. So
that's really not a lot of time.
If people want to mortgage an auction property, they don't go to a standard mortgage company. They tend to go for like a bridging loan or a specific lender that deals with auction properties.
Side note, I know you said this was important in doing all the mock exam questions.
Yeah.
Questions about what happens if fucking Greg has paid his deposit but can't get a mortgage to complete within the 28 days. What happens? And then the exam question will give you 4 scenarios
Yes.
to pick. So this does come up because I remember these coming up in multiple different ways. Auction scenarios coming up. So you need to know this shit for your exam.
Yeah, it's actually just 2 pages in the textbook.
Yeah.
So if it is that you're self-studying, first of all, what are you doing? Go and check out the e-learning platform or the masterclass. But if you are self-studying, go to those 2 pages in your textbook and like read them a few times because you will get asked about everything that's in there. But that's the bulk of in-person auctions. So you exchange contracts on the day. You have 28 days to complete. You get the buyer's pack. You have to put a 10% deposit down. The second option is called the modern property auction. And it's called that because we do it online. And online auctions do work completely different.
Right.
So the first thing that we do is upon successful bidding, you pay a 5% reservation fee.
Right.
So this is not a deposit. It does not come off the total value of the house. It's basically just an admin cost, and the admin charge is 5% of the property value.
Fucking hell.
A lot of people still do it because they get more protection, I believe, as a buyer with online purchases.
Interesting.
I'm not sure how or why. I just know that a few people have said it. But you don't exchange contracts on the day. You have a little bit longer. So if you make this a successful bid, 5% reservation fee on the day, and then you've got 28 days to exchange contracts and another 28 days to complete. So 56 days in total.
Okay.
But that's really it.
That's it. Those are the highlights.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to call it a day because I need to go and take off these pants. I'm well too warm.
It is very warm.
But hopefully the audio is gonna come through because we're absolutely fucked if we're gonna do this again.
Not it.
And hopefully you've enjoyed this week's episode.
As usual, it's not a comprehensive guide. If you want one of those, go to the website,
which is futureinfinance.co.uk.
Soz.
Go on there and check out all of the free stuff that's going on so you can get free access to the e-learning platform in there. And there's like 15 hours worth of free study material.
Yeah, so if you're not sure if it's for you,
go and check it out
give
first.
it a go.
Yeah, that's the e-learning products. I also run the masterclasses once a month, and it's the 5-day fast track course with the 100% money back guarantee. Honestly, at this point, I'm not going to oversell it because you'll either book on or you won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that I would say I've been getting a lot of questions about recently is people say, well, what if I don't know which one I want? And that's a really good question. And I say to people, start with the e-learning platform. And if you decide you wish you'd have booked on a masterclass, you can just pay the difference. Just drop me a message and you can just bump up.
You can upgrade
Yeah.
for the cost difference.
Exactly. Again, no one else is offering that service. And I'd say probably about 20% of my e-learning customers do bump up to a masterclass space because they just can't find the time and they just don't have the commitment. They need someone to sit there for a week and flog them until they pass, which is what you pay me to do.
Very nicely, though, I will say.
Kindly,
gently.
gentle parenting. That's exactly it. But that's everything that we've got time for this week. Please do leave us a review. Please do comment. Just show us some love. The more love that you show us by subscribing to Instagram and TikTok, and especially if you hit the subscribe button for this podcast in whatever platform you're listening to, there's like an automatic download button that makes the world of difference.
Huge difference, guys.
The more people do that, the more free stuff we can do and the better we can do it.
Yep.
No, we can, maybe not sit in our garden with a £17 microphone from Amazon just to
Take
deliver
it
you some
back.
of the good stuff.
This is the dream.
But thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you next week. And Maria, can you please
Cue outro music.